Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about credit card debt. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. I know I've made videos before saying it was at an all-time high. Now it's even worse than it was before. And in this video, I'm going to talk about solutions, so stay tuned. Also, like this video. That's just something that's required by YouTube to just show appreciation for me making these videos. So you know the video is going to be good. So go ahead and like this video. Hit that notification bell for other videos that I have coming up. And in this video, we're going to talk about credit card debt. I'm going to give you solutions on how to deal with your credit card debt. And it just depending on where you're at in your credit card debt journey right now. If you're making payments struggling, I'm going to give you a solution for that. If you've just missed some payments, I'm going to give you a solution for that. If you have just blown up and you got straight up charge-offs, I'm going to give you the solution for that. So watch this video, but I want to lay some foundation. I want to lay some foundation because if I can give you good foundation, it will allow you to be able to move forward. And before I get into the lesson for today's video, someone had put a comment in there that said it's like I'm lecturing to them like they're listening to their parents. Well, it's not about lecturing to someone. It's about trying to help someone to gain an understanding. If it was just about reading a book, if it was just about saying 2 + 2 = 4, no one would be in debt. No one would have these types of problems. It's more than just mathematics. Mathematics will get you out of the problem, but there's internal issues that we have to overcome to find out the reasons why we get ourselves into these financial problems. I had to go through it. Other people have had to go through it and work their way out of it. And you're watching this video because somewhere in your something with your finances is not working for you. And the easy way, like the short line, straight line way to know if something isn't working for you is to just look at your results. Like, get the ego out the way and look at your results. And if your results do not bear it, then you're doing something wrong. And I'm going to get into a book also that you need to read that will detail this if you haven't read it before. And if you have read it before, you're going to end up reading it again because I pulled it off my shelf again to read it also because it's going to help all of us with what we're trying to accomplish in our life. So right now, this is in the recent news right here. Delinquency rates rose 50 to 58% with just one credit card provider, Capital One. Now, we all might have our suspicions about why Capital One's delinquency rate has increased is because one of the easiest cards for people to get when they're either rebuilding their credit or when they're starting out with their credit is what card? Capital One. So it doesn't surprise me that one would have the most, but also Capital One is one of the most aggressively advertised credit cards that's out there in the nation. They got, I think, what is that a Capital One with Samuel Jackson? It's not sure, but I know that they're like very aggressive with their advertisement on getting people, and they have multiple levels of cards. They have the introductory where you might have a small credit limit. They even have secured cards, secured small available limits, and then they have all the way to higher limits. And it's a very good card. So there's nothing wrong with the card itself. It's a very good card. It's just that you got to watch out how you use it. Now, something that you need to be aware of. Be aware of this. Write this down in your notes because this will help you not lose money. Like, you know, it's hard to tell people to do things to make more money because they're like all these fears come in their mind about what they got to do to make more money. Well, I'm about to tell you right now, you need to be aware of this so you don't lose money. Look at this here. A lot of people aren't aware of this. Credit card companies can increase your rate. If they increase your rate on the balances that you have right now, that means that the shirt that you bought or the pants you bought or the purse that you bought last week, and you carried it over to the next month on your credit card, it's going to cost you even more than you expected. Most people don't even add up what it's going to cost them. They just know that they pay an interest rate. Well, let me show you how you even lose more money, even if you're making your payments. Is that you need to be aware that credit card companies can increase your rate because of the following things here. And this is not if you messed up on their card. So if you fall behind on another card, so say that you have a Capital One card and you have a Discover card, and you fall back, you miss some payments on the Discover card, but you're keeping up with your minimum payments and everything on your Capital One card, they can increase your interest rate based off of that. Also, they can increase your rate just because if you're maxing out your card all the time, you got to even be careful with that. So even if you're paying your Capital One card and you're making your minimum payments, they can increase your rate even over that. Now, if you max out another card, so you max out your Discover, but you're taking care of your Capital One, they can increase your rate. So that's you paying more for the same thing that you had bought last month. Now you're going to pay even more than what you expected to pay. That's where your extra money is going. The next thing is if the Fed increases the rate. The Fed just did another rate increase, I think it was last month. When they increase their rates, the credit card interest rates move up. And that's a way that you end up losing your extra money. All of this whole thing is going to come down to, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, is about where your money is going. When you understand where your money is going, it'll help you make better decisions. If you mess up with their card, obviously, if you mess up with their card, they're going to be able to raise their interest rates. That's just, that they'll be able to do that. Now, you might be wondering, why are they able to do that? It's because these are open-end accounts. These are open-end accounts. So you're going to be told an interest rate, but that interest rate can change the next month. They'll just send you a letter in the mail saying, hey, the terms have just changed, and what are you going to do about it? You can't do nothing. If you want to close your card, you had an option to do that, and you just need to pay up. Most people won't do that. They have a whole bunch of leeway. That's why you'll see on your credit reports, and at least on the ones that we get for our clients, you will see this line in there on a monthly basis. It'll say factual data. What is factual data? That is not a hard inquiry. What that is these companies, your credit card providers, and other lenders that may want to see what's going on with you and your credit, to see if you're making your payments. They're checking on you to see how you're doing, and the credit card companies are doing this so they can jack up your interest rate. Now, credit card charge-offs will increase. This is what was reported by Capital One CEO. Stated that from what they're seeing with the data, from what they're actually seeing with the data, is that it's going to increase by July of 2023. And what they mean by it is that people have already stopped making their payments for over 180 days. So from getting at the end of January, right there with that 180 days, that 6 months, with July, that's going to be right there, July, August, right in that period of time, they are estimating that those charge-offs are going to increase. And that's just with Capital One. We're not even talking about the other ones. This is just what was reported in the news on CNBC. The next thing is revolving debt increased by 31% since January 2023. Now, we understand why it increased, because people were buying stuff for Christmas. People were buying stuff. People were getting all types of things. But here's the crazy thing that's going on. And this is why this solution, when I'm getting into the solutions, this is what will work for you. Trust me, this will work for you when I get to the solution. So, but I'm just laying this foundation for you, is that employment is at an all-time low. Unemployment in the African-American community, all communities at an all-time low. So you're probably saying, well, if more people are employed, what are people doing? This is what they're doing. They're increasing their debt. They're increasing their debt. They're going out there buying things. When people didn't have money to get stuff, what do people do? What do we all do? We go out and we buy stuff. So that's why that's increased. So now let's look at something real quick. Credit card debt solution. So the number one way, budget your money. This gets into what that young lady had said about me lecturing people here on YouTube. Well, people need some lecturing. And also there was a post, someone said that credit is going to be tight. It's going to be hard to get credit. Let me share something with you. And see, this is one of those things where when someone doesn't know and they're not really they're not really in that situation, then they really don't know. What they're doing is they're just guessing. If people do their research, this is something that you're going to find. Number one is that you got to budget your money. I don't care what quick fix, what McDonald's way to get out of debt, to get out of credit card debt somebody comes up with. The number one way is to budget your money. You need to be responsible for the way that you budget your money. And then this here, look at this. Credit crunch does not exist for people with good credit and who manage their expenses. It does not exist for people who have good credit or excellent credit and manage their expenses, because we live in a credit-driven society. Banks, credit card companies, none of them can make any money unless they go out there and get new customers. So keep that in mind. Don't let anyone tell you that the credit crunch exists for everybody. It only exists for people who have not managed their money. If it only existed for people, if it didn't exist for anyone, then there would be no credit that would be given during the recession. And there was plenty of businesses that were started during the recession. There were plenty of loans that were made during the recession. There are plenty of loans being made right now, and the interest rates are jacked up for people buying homes. And in my daughter's neighborhood, there's house after house after house after house. People are buying them. My friend who flips houses, he flips it, it's sold the next month. He hasn't even kept the property for more than 30 to 45 days after they fixed it. They're all selling. He said, I can't even get enough properties to do stuff. The only problem he has is that he has to have more employees to do the work, the clean outs and all of that stuff. So don't be fooled with that stuff. Don't be fooled with that stuff. And I got this book off of my shelf. I got in my office. You might have seen it in some of my videos. I have a bookshelf, and I read, and I might read a page. I might read 5 pages, 10 pages. I might read, 40 pages. It just depends on how I feel. But I do read. And one of the things in this book here is called The Science of Getting Rich. I read this book a long time ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was The Science of Getting Rich. And it says, attracting financial success through creative thought. Now, I think that the caption right there is it should be changed. It should be changed. And this is why it's important to listen to your parents. Listen to people who are doing good financially. If your parents aren't doing good financially, listen to them for all the other stuff. But you just say, Mom, Dad, you struggle just as much as I struggle. So I don't think that I can listen to you on a financial level. But you can listen to me on a financial level, because I've went through the struggle and I rebuilt myself, and I'm not going back to that struggle ever again. I budget my money. I save my money. I invest. I look out for myself for the future. I look out for myself right now. And you got to be of that mindset. And one of the things that is specifically said in that book is that it says that you have to follow the path that was already done. Like if you want to get out of credit card debt, and if you haven't done it yet, get your piece of paper out, because this book, and you can get this book too, and I think it's actually free online if you go online, specifically states that if you want to get rich, if you want to do something that someone else has done, you got to follow exactly the steps. It would be like you're in a forest, and at the end of that tree over there, it's going to have the solution to getting out of credit card debt. Like, that's the end result. You have to follow the steps of that individual without letting your ego get in the way, without you saying, well, why should I listen to that person? I don't like the way that person sounds. I don't like the way that person looks, or that person doesn't look like the person who can guide me through this. You don't do that. What you do is you look at the results of that individual. Look at the results of that individual, and no matter what that person looks like, no matter how that person talks, no matter whatever about that person, if that person got a result that you wanted, then those are the steps that you need to follow. See, we follow steps of people who we think have those results, and they're faking that they had those results. They don't really have those results. Follow people who got those results. So now, taking it from me, and this is the good thing about it, is that I've dealt with customers in all of these, and then I was in this section here. So some of you might be saying, well, Steve, it's easy for you because you got money and all that. I was over here. This here is like the collapse section. This is where I was at. So I'm going to get to that solution in a second, but let's start here. Because there's a lot of people who come to me and they're like, I'm making the payments. I'm struggling. I don't know what to do. What are my options? Well, here are your options. Number one, you got to keep the communications open, and you got to be able to get to the hardship department within that credit card company and say, this is what's going on with me, and do you want to get this in writing? How do you want to get it? Because you just do not know that they could end up doing a 1099-C cancellation of debt. On my website, I have several, and we just received another one from a gentleman from Ford Motor Credit for $18,000. Now, don't get confused with what I'm saying. I'm going to be very clear. You do not force a company to cancel out debt. There is no document that forces them to do it. There is no payment in some trust account that forces them to take the money out of your trust account under your social security number and all of that stuff. That stuff doesn't exist. What you do is you do a hardship letter expressing your hardship, and based off of what they believe, and you might be saying, well, what's the template on it? You need to just tell them what's going on, and it can't be a sob story. It has to be what's going on with you. Do you got medical? Did you lose your job? Did you get downsized? Tell them the whole thing. Did you lose your business? All of that. The one that I have on my website for $36,000 with JP Morgan Chase, with Chase card, was because this individual struggled with an issue with their business, and they ended up doing a 1099-C cancellation of debt. So that's the first step, is the hardship, and you do the hardship by communicating with the credit card company. Don't run, answer the phones, get me to the right department. Do I need to send it to you in writing? Send it to them in certified mail to make sure that they received it, so you can get that on record on what you're going through and let them determine what way they're going to do it. The next thing is do deferments. Say you got 10 credit cards, and those 10 credit cards, you got, let's just say $1,000 in payments. We all know it's going to be more than that, but $1,000 in payments. Let's just say that you tell them, hey, with your hardship, they don't want to do a 1099-C, but they say, okay, we want to set up some type of payment plan. And you say, I've been struggling to pay you. Can I just get a deferment for 6 months? And you tell them, hey, the reason why I want to get that deferment is because I have a plan of action to pay off these credit cards. Now, just so you know, during that deferment period, you will not your credit will not be hurt, because you're probably worried, well, Steve, this is going to hurt my credit. No, it's not going to hurt your credit. You're going to have deferments placed on there. They will increase the interest rate, but see, you got a plan. You're going to be budgeting your money. Remember what I talked about earlier? When you learn to budget your money, because no matter what, when you see yourself through this, with any of these, when you see yourself through any of these options, you're going to have to budget your money. If you don't budget your money, you're going to be in trouble all over again. So let's just say you have 10 cards, $1,000 a month in payments. You defer for 6 months. Now you got $6,000. If you don't go out there and go crazy and throw the money at some other stuff, you got $6,000 to pay down debt right here. So you're going to use that money to pay down debt. And you're going to also budget your money, because if you budget your money, you're going to see that you're in a better situation than you think you were. You got to buckle down and you got to budget that money. You got to see where all of your money is going. It's going to be one of the most difficult things to do. That's why I talked about it earlier when I said that if it was just about adding up numbers, you would be able to do that easily. It's not about just adding up numbers. What are all of the extra things that you spend your money on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? What are all of those things? Let me tell you an easy way to find out. Just get an envelope. And every time you spend money, I don't care if it's on a credit card, whatever you spend your money on, you put the receipt in that envelope. And after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, after 4 weeks, you open up that envelope and you add up all of the money that you spent. And then you start to see that you're not budgeting your money. So that's the solution right there. This will save your credit. This will save your credit. Also, you may end up being able to do some settlements, whatever it is. That picture will look different for everybody. I just gave you the foundation to work your solution. I just gave you the foundation to work your solution. This saves your credit. So if you're looking at not having to have your credit blow up like I did, this will save your credit. And you never know, they might do a hardship 1099-C. You can do the deferments, and you can get the deferments not just on your credit cards. You can get that on your car. You can get that on a whole bunch of other consumer debt that you're paying on, personal loans, all types of stuff. But you got to use the money right to pay down the debt. Now, the next one is that you're missing some payments. You're missing some payments. Your credit is already starting to get messed up. You still go through the same process with the hardship. And you still go through the same process with the deferment. You still go through the same process with the budgeting, but this time you have paid down debt, but you're going to be negotiating on that debt. On this one here, they're not more than likely they will not negotiate on this debt because this debt has not been charged off. On this side here, you would be paying down the debt that has not been charged off and then negotiating on the debt that has been charged off because you have been missing payments. And if you missed 180 days of payments, it's going to charge off. Charge off on a credit card is just taking it off of the good books and putting it on the bad books. It's not disappearing. It's not going to the federal government to be, where they're going to say, hey, they didn't pay me. I want to get it out of their Social Security account. None of that stuff is true. A charge off, what it means is that they took it off their books and they maybe didn't even sell it yet. That's why I have in this solution where you can call them up. If you keep the communications open, you can call them up and they know that you're struggling. And you say, hey, I want to negotiate on that debt. I have reports, but I don't have proof yet. So hear me clearly. I have a report from an individual on YouTube, subscriber, who said that Discover Card, before the account was charged off, they offered a settlement. I've never seen that happen before. I'm waiting on the proof, but I would bet that they offered to negotiate because it went through the charge-off status. It just sometimes, I'm surprised that sometimes people don't know where stuff is. But the reason why they don't know where their stuff is because they're worried about maintaining their household. They're not even thinking about, if an account was charged off. They've already given up on their credit and all that stuff. So that would be the flow. This is if you're missing payments, maybe your credit is starting to, to go down, it's starting to mess up, or it is messing up because you went 180 days and some of your accounts are charged off, but you're like balancing. You got some good ones, you got some bad ones. You do the hardship. The hardship, again, is to let them know what's going on. You're communicating with them. Maybe they make you an offer. You never know. That's why I say you never know what can happen. Why not play all of your cards and have something good happen than play no cards and all they're thinking is that you just don't want to pay them, that you're running. That is exactly what their thought process is. And that's exactly what your thought process would be. If your cousin borrowed $100 from you, and every time you called your cousin, he just hit his phone, where it just went to voicemail, what would you think? Your cousin don't want to pay you. until your cousin tells you that he's struggling. That's when you'll know that your cousin is struggling. Right now, you need to tell them that you're struggling, because right now they're thinking that all you're doing is just you don't want to pay them the money. That's how they're thinking. The next one, charged off. When it reaches a charge-off status, that means that you have not paid payments for 180 days, taking it off the books. Now you need to find out who owns the debt. You need to be sure of who owns the debt. Some of the times you may call, for our example, Capital One, and they say, well, we can't do anything. You are like, I'm trying to pay you. I budgeted my money, and now I got, that extra $1,000, and I want to pay you in full. And they say, we can't even take the payment in full. That's because they sold the debt. If the debt is sold, you need to go through a validation process with the new owner. You're going to receive a letter. Now, you may have to figure out a way to be proactive. You're going to have to ask, the credit card company, well, who has it? Where is the debt? Where, because it could take up to 6 to 8 months before they would even start sending you letters on this debt. That's why I think so many people get frustrated, because it's like, I didn't hear from these people for like a year. And then all of a sudden, this debt collector popped up. That's because it's going through that process. And you never know which process the credit card company is going to send their debt through. Some of them sell it, some of them don't. The ones that I've seen not sell it is Capital One. Bank of America has started to not sell their debt. American Express and Discover. And Barclays also. These companies will hire attorneys to go after people, to sue them in court. And I'm starting to see that, expand with the credit card companies, because they're like, hey, why don't we just, hire a debt lawyer to sue for us, and we get all of the money. That's why if you don't keep that communications open, that lawyer is going to come after you like, hey, you're just trying not to pay. I don't want to hear it. I'm getting paid from them, so I'm going to bring the hammer down on you, because it doesn't matter. I'm not getting commission. I'm going to bring the hammer down. And then if they do buy the debt, if a debt collector does buy the debt, they're going to bring the hammer down, because they just paid thousands of dollars for debt. Even though they buy it for pennies on the dollar, they still going to bring the hammer down, because they're in the business of making money. So if they're in the business of making money and coming after people for bad credit card debt, then you need to be prepared on how you respond to them, or you're going to have them walking all over you. So who owns the debt? Validate the debt. The first thing, and I'm going to give you a letter that you can utilize to validate that debt. So you validate that debt, because you don't want to be paying a debt that you shouldn't have to pay. You don't want to be paying a debt collector who doesn't have all the documentation to prove that you have to pay them. It is not about them just buying a debt. They have to prove the claimed amount. How did they come up with the claimed amount? If you went to the credit card company and you said, well, you say that I owe you, $1,000, for example, how did you come up with that $1,000? They're going to be like, well, here is your charge on that day. All them days you was at the gas station on that day. You bought some potato chips and a bottle of water on that day. They'll tell you exactly what you bought that day. Debt collector's only going to have a couple of statements. They're going to be like, you say I owe you $1,000. Well, how did you do that? You just got the one that last statement that they got with the chips and the bottle of water. That's not $1,000. So that's why I'm saying you got to validate. But don't worry about that. I'm going to give you a letter to help you with that. Next thing is, you still have a right to do a hardship. I did a video about the hardships, even with debt collection companies. Portfolio, I think I did it on or LVNV or Portfolio. Just go. There's a link on their website. It's hard to find, but they have to listen to it. And if you look at the lawsuits, like we see a lot of people submit their court summons to us, they have a line in there stating that they try to open up communications and listen to all hardships that people have. They say that in their court summons. So why wouldn't you play that card that's on your table? If you were in this situation, you did go through a hardship. Regardless if it's business, you made a bad decision, whatever, you went through a hardship. Your hardship is to open up communications, because your hardship is like the key. This is what a hardship is. It's like a key to opening up a door to other opportunities to resolve your debt issue, to resolve your credit card debt issue, to resolve any debt issue that you have. It's like the key. Most people, they don't go get the key because they're scared. They don't want to talk to nobody. They don't want to do nothing. And see, I understand that. So this goes back to listening to your parents, getting lectured. Well, at first, when I went through my debt problem in 1994, didn't want to talk to nobody. Or 1993, didn't want to talk to nobody. Ran from the debt collectors. Didn't want to say nothing. 1994, my wife and I had a sit down together, came to an agreement. We're not going to live this way anymore. Wrote down our goals, how we're going to, the plan to get out of this. And it was a lot undetailed in this. I'm giving you what we learned during the process. We just had a goal to get out of debt. It took us 5 years to get out of $300,000 worth of debt. So that's what we did. So, but the first thing that we started doing, open up the communication. Hey, come get the car. Come get that car. Take it. We'll deal with the debt. Take it. We'll call you and we will deal with the debt. Hey, the credit card charged off. There's nothing. We're going to be talking to you about settling. Debt collector, okay, we're going to deal with you. Okay, other debt collector, we're going to deal with you. We're talking. We're communicating. Good things happen when you communicate. A lot of things happen for us when we communicated rather than just running from the debt. So you still had opportunity for the hardship, and you never know what good things will happen from the hardship. Next thing is negotiating the debt that you do have to pay. Because in the end, you need to move forward. You don't need to go an extra day, an extra 6 months, an extra year, an extra 2 years having bad credit when you can avoid having it. Don't be the one who has 1 or 2 or 3 collections on there and the total amount of the debt is like $1,500 or $2,000 and you say, I just don't want to pay them. Well, you not wanting to pay them is doing something to you. This is what it's doing to you. Let me go back to the screen. This is what it's doing to you. So you think that you not paying them the $1,500 or $2,000 is you not paying them? This is what it's doing to you. Credit crunch does not exist for people with good credit and manage their expenses. The result. See, the result. So if you don't pay them that $1,500 and $2,000 or whatever you can negotiate, what is the result of you not doing that? Does that move you forward or does that move you backwards or keep you right where you're at? And remember again, I'm going to repeat it again. I don't care. Credit crunch does not exist for people with good credit and who manage their expenses. It just doesn't. So now if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video what makes us different. So you can watch my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores so you can know exactly what is going on with your creditors or debt collectors or information on your credit report, grab your reports at your3scores.com. Your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores and all of the furnisher information on your credit reports. If you have debt collectors coming after you early in the game, first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that that debt is not past legal statute of limitations to be able to collect. Every state has a statute of limitations on collecting debt. You can go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. At the bottom, click on the blog, and you will see, if you type in statute, you will see the statute of limitations for all 50 states. Credit card debt is in column 4. And in some states, the credit card debt statute of limitation is shorter than the regular debt for installment type loans. If your debt is not past legal statute of limitation, I have 2 letters for you, cease and desist and debt validation letter. These letters will ask questions and make debt collectors have to make sure that they have all the information to come after you for that debt.